Welcome to the October 12th, 2017 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PJF.
Whoa.
I'm cool now, so I'm only doing an abbreviation of my name.
Peanut Jutter and Felly?
Yes.
I was going to say
it's PyroJackFrost.
Pajama Frank. How did you know Pajama Frank?
I should just come up with a new PJF every single show.
Oh, boy.
Anyway.
Nice. Well, I've been really excited to talk about this subject for a while, but my girlfriend and I ventured out to...
into the wild.
Yeah, the wild yonder of Westchester, Pennsylvania. Where there is, like, not a lot of people and not a lot of wilderness. It's like one of those... It's definitely been, like, it used to be farmland kind of places, you know? Like, it used to be farmland. There are a lot of roads, but not a lot of stuff to line the roads. It's kind of funny. But anyway, we went to the movie tavern. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a movie tavern before.
A movie tavern? No.
Yeah. So, what this is it's a movie theater that serves food and also drinks.
You kind of like the
I
Alamo
heard
Draft
there's
House.
a lot of AMCs that are doing that now.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to check it out eventually.
Yeah, the concept was pioneered by Movie Tavern, and then like AMC is moving into compete with them.
Okay.
So we had gone to an AMC and we saw I forget which movie it was. Baby Driver, I think.
Okay.
Where we saw the last movie that we went to this on this kind of thing, but this time we ventured out to go see Blade Runner 2049.
How was it?
Is I will get to it.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm kind of building up to it.
Okay. Okay.
So
I'll let you build up.
Buttercup baby, just to let you down. But anyway, and mess me around. But first of all, so I've been wanting to see this movie ever since it got announced, and the first movie is the first Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably my number 2 favorite movie.
Oh wow! I didn't realize it ranked that highly for you.
It's really high, yeah. You'll see like the ranking of my movies tends to lie on the ones that I've analyzed the most. So like this movie has climbed in the rank in the ranks of me liking it. I didn't like it the first time I watched it. It was one of those, like, I watched it as a teenager. I was like, this is slow and stupid. And I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And when you don't get things, you tend to be like, this is dumb. I'm not watching this. And the thing is, the first movie is a very influential movie in a lot of ways, but mostly in the aesthetics and the way it was directed.
Yeah.
So it has a very deliberate storytelling method in that everything is important and you don't realize it. So if you're not paying attention, you won't get everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything that happens is very deliberate. There's no wasted stuff going on in the movie. There's no extra things going on. Like, everything is in service to the next thing that's going to go on, and to the greater story as a whole. Kind of like Mad Max Fury Road is a lot like that, actually. There's no fat in that movie. Everything that is in it, every object that is in that movie gets used. So Blade Runner is like that, but it's slow, whereas Fury Road is the fastest thing alive.
Yeah, like the first Blade Runner, I've said this every single time we talk about it, but the first time I watched it, I think I only watched it either because you recommended it, or I just knew that I had to watch it because I knew that it was like a seminal piece. Sure. And I finished it. I don't remember if I was fully paying attention to it, but I finished it. And by the end of it, I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So then, like, a couple months ago, I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, you know what? I have to watch this again because the new one's coming out. And I think that because I'm older now, I'm going to pay more attention to it, etc. And I watched it again, and I'm like, okay, so I think I understand better what happened.
Yeah, so part of what makes the first movie so good is its ambiguity. It doesn't explain a lot. You have to infer quite a bit. And you are brought along on a detective story, and you kind of have to be a detective as well in piecing everything together. It's not told to you. Like, the answers are not told to you. You have to come up with them. And they give you the ammunition for answers, but there's still ambiguity. So you're never quite sure whether you're correct in interpreting it.
I like how you use the word ammunition, just to bounce off of our Danganronpa conversation last episode.
Yeah, perfect.
Very true. Yeah. Very good choice there. But I taught this movie, in one of my cinema studies classes. By the way, I want to thank General Ledger for encouraging me to do an online version of my cinema talks.
Oh, so we are going to do it. Nice.
He or she put up a post on our SoundCloud page to encourage me along in saying that they would participate.
Nice.
So I'm more and more warming up to the idea. But having said that, with this type of movie, and seeing as though it's as good as it is, and kind of like, with the new Mad Max, it's just like, why am I even going to go see this? I've already seen the best that, like, this could be. You know what I mean? Like, I love this movie so much that, like, it's easily tarnished by a crappy sequel, right? And it doesn't even have to be, like, it could be mediocre and I wouldn't like it, you know what I mean? It needs to live up to a certain standard and in order to be anywhere near enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
So you're always worried about these kinds of things when you watch it. I am happy to say that it is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's
nice.
Really good. It is a phenomenally directed movie. With a lot of modern movies, you kind of, I always kind of think that modern directing will not gel with an old-style movie, like a sequel to an old-style movie. So, therefore, I don't think it will fit in. The directing style is very deliberate. It does not feel like a modern action movie. There's no shaky cam. Everything.
Thank God, that was never a good idea.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it was kind of cool, when they first did it with the Bourne movies. Like, it was something new, something visceral, but...
yeah, but then you realize you can't see shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, in a lot of ways, you can kind of... people that are familiar with filmmaking can kind of be like, that's just a way that you're covering up bad choreography, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and you're also like, not allowing the scene to happen, right? Like, the scene
that's the thing. You're interfering with your own movie.
Yeah. So there was just too much camera involvement. Well, the shots are very well composed. Everything is beautiful,
and everything's probably very deliberate too.
Yeah, everything, every background is beautiful. Like, everything, it's like watching a painting. Like, there aren't many movies that are like this, and they're very hard to make. And every single moment in the movie, it had a lot of visual work put into it to make it look that good.
By the way, this is kind of related to the visuals, but like from what I've heard, I've not seen the movie. From what I have heard, the creator of this movie definitely loved and respected the original movie, insofar as even references and continuity that people wouldn't expect to exist made sense. Like, for example, in the first movie, this is something I'd actually forgotten, but I've seen multiple people talk about it. Like, you would see companies that were prominent at the time, like Atari and Pan Am. Pan Am doesn't even exist anymore. Like Pan America, the airline. But apparently, even in the new Blade Runner, Atari and Pan Am are still around, which is just amusing to me.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. So the continuity the film takes is that it's still an alternate future version of the 1980s.
What year is the original Blade Runner supposed to take place in?
It's supposed to take place in 2019, 2 years from now.
Okay, so this is 30 years after that movie.
Correct. So the movie has a very clear timeline as to how events happened. And another thing, the sequel doesn't give you any answers about the original.
That's good. I know a lot of people, like, not to spoil it for anyone, the original, because first of all, it's been forever since it came out, but it's not really a spoiler. Like, people were wondering who Deckard was. I'll just say that, like, who Deckard was. And a lot of people were worried that the movie would ruin that unknown ending. So I'm glad to hear that they didn't touch it. Did they, like, build on that, though, but just not answer it?
Well, from what I've heard, they allude to it, but they don't give you a concrete answer, which is the best decision, because no matter which way they would have gone, half of the people would have been pissed off.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this: there is an ambiguous ending to the first one as to the nature of the main character. They allude to trying to a certain stance on it. But then they immediately wipe it away, kind of like in Dark Knight, where Joker gives himself an origin story at the beginning of the movie, and you're like, any comic book fan is like, oh, fuck you, don't give him an origin, like, what are you doing? And then he makes up 2 more origins later on in the movie, and you're like, oh, this is great.
yeah, that was well done.
And so, like, it's very similar to that. In fact, what's kind of funny about it is Jared Leto, a different Joker, is the source of this ambiguity.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, yeah.
So he basically alludes to the ending of Blade Runner and then backpedals immediately and goes, well, if that was the way it was. and you're like, yes. Like, any fan of the original movie is just like, yes. Like, don't give me an answer. I don't want one. Like,
yeah.
I guess
that's the whole thing.
My other question is, does this movie add enough to the world? Like, does it feel necessary in a way?
Yes.
Okay.
It explores a different area of the world that the original does not.
Cool.
So the original is mostly about the seedy streets of this future Los Angeles. Isn't
it like Neo, like Tokyo, Neo New York, or something like that? It's supposed to be a combination of what?
It's Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a very much a Los Angeles that has been overtaken by other cultures other than the American the American dominant culture. So the original movie played with the fact that there was a lot of fear that Japan was going to take over economically. During the time, they were in a bubble economy and they were very successful with their technology. So there was a real American fear that America wouldn't be on top anymore.
Yep.
So as an economic superpower, which, seems to be a persistent thing. I guess when you're on top, you're always looking at who's gunning for you.
Yep.
That's the whole thing, yeah. Because, like, how many other countries are there in the world? They're just like, well, I know what it's like to not be on top, and it's like, we've been living that way the whole time, whatever.
Well, it's kind of like, Afro Samurai, when you're number one, everybody wants to attack the shit out of you, like, it's like...
Yeah, actually, but believe it or not, I could actually bring a JoJo reference into here, because...
I believe it.
Yeah, like, there's the character Hull Horse, like the cowboy-looking gunman, who is aware of that philosophy, and he's like, well, that's why it's always better to be number 2 than number 1. Like, I can be about as powerful as I would like without being targeted by anybody ever.
Actually, in Afro Samurai, it's the other way around. Number 2 has the only number 2 can fight number 1. So everybody's trying to kill number 2.
Yeah, but like the principle still applies. Like if you were number 3, then nobody would care, you know?
Exactly. Nobody cares about number 3.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that the original was kind of like a neo-noir.
Yes.
So like noir films really deal with the seedy underbelly of the cities back in those times, during the 30s and 40s primarily. And early 50s. So a lot of it was the corruption that was running on the underneath of every big city, you know, and kind of the perversion of the American way. Blade Runner is very similar. It's that, but with a neon sheen to it, right? It's the future. The future can have this issue as well. Well, the new movie focuses a lot actually on, first of all, the character, the Ryan Gosling's character. His name is Kay. A lot of it is about his place in the world, and a lot of it has to do outside of LA. In fact, a big portion of it takes place in San Diego, which is LA's dumping ground. So LA is so densely populated and has so much going on in it that San Diego basically became its landfill.
Wow.
So a big portion of it happens in the landfill, which is kind of neat. There's also a big portion of it that happens in a post-nuclear Los Angeles, Las Vegas. I'm sorry. So there is quite a bit of stuff going on in the world other than this LA that was so famous in the first one. Of course, there are moments where, you know, they show the awesome iconic neon lights of this futuristic LA, but
and like the ziggurat.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the movie too. Is what you're referring to is the pyramid-like structure that the Tyrell Corporation runs their headquarters out of in the first movie. In the second movie, the Tyrell Corporation has gone out of business and has been bought out by a successor corporation that's owned by Jared Leto's character. So there are still replicants in this world. In the first one, they made you believe basically that they were all becoming extinct. And what the new corporation did was they made replicants that were totally subservient. So they didn't have any flaw in them that allowed them to question authority. So there are still Blade Runners hunting the last of the old models.
Wow. Do the Blade Runners also... I mean, I know that this might just be a big question about part of the plot, I guess, but because the new replicants are supposed to be subservient, I'm guessing they're rogue, so do Blade Runners still hunt any replicant, basically, as long as they are dangerous?
So, the new replicants, it's hard to say. Basically, any rogue replicant is a target.
Actually, here's a question, although this might be getting into spoiler territory, so like don't answer it if it is a risky question, but because the new replicants are totally subservient, couldn't you just have a bunch of them be Blade Runners?
Well, this isn't really a spoiler since it happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
But K is a replicant. That question is answered immediately.
Okay.
Basically after the first fight scene. There's no ambiguity. He is a replicant.
Okay.
That question is answered for you. He is a replicant that hunts other replicants.
All right, there you go.
So he is one of the new models.
Sure.
And they are after the Nexus 8s. In the original movie, they were Harrison Ford's character of Deckard is after the Nexus 6s.
Oh wow.
So the Nexus 6s have a lifespan of 4 years.
Yeah.
Nexus 8s were made with an open-ended lifespan of basically a regular human. So you can take what you want from that. You can, from that that implication is given to you at the very beginning of the movie. That is the text crawl, is that Nexus 8s were given a normal lifespan. So that could imply, since Harrison Ford's character of Deckard, who is in the new movie, that's not a spoiler, that's in the trailers.
Yeah, we saw that much. Yeah.
He does not have the life. He doesn't have the short lifespan of a Nexus 6. Mm-hmm. He either is a human or he's a Nexus 8.
Yeah.
They don't tell you what.
Okay.
Is this movie as, I don't want to say complicated, but is there like as much going on? Let's say, or is it done the same way as the first one in the sense of if you're not paying attention, like some of the little things, you might be a little confused near the end?
No, this movie is much more viewer friendly.
Okay.
In fact, I would say that both of you would enjoy this one. Much even if you didn't enjoy the first one.
Yeah, I still need to give the first one a shot because I watched it, but I had the same experience you did. Like I watched it when I was younger, and it was on TV, and it was the cut with the bad voiceover. Yeah. So I was just kind of like, there's got to be some reason people like this movie, so I'm gonna make myself sit through it. But I was not a fan. But this was a long time ago, and it was a bad way of watching an already bad cut. So if I watch the final cut now, I might feel differently.
So it's one of those movies that is iconic, and if you haven't seen it, you expect it to be like an action movie, and it's not.
Yeah, at least as far as aesthetics, like Stalker, that was not the movie that I thought it would be, but I totally see how it influenced the genre. And Blade Runner, even though I didn't like the movie, it is plainly easy to see like where all this cyberpunk noir stuff came from.
Yeah. So, once again, I like that this movie respects the ambiguity of the original movie. It gives you multiple outs. Not only that speech that Jared Leto gives, but also it gives you that out in the opening crawl to infer that he may or may not. He's not a regular replica. He's not a Nexus 6 because he's not. He would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they invented a new class of replicants that wasn't revealed to you earlier, that could withstand the test of time. Mm-hmm. So it's really neat. Dave Bautista's in it for a bit.
He was the guy who plays Drax.
Yes. Yeah. He's becoming more and more a respected actor. He's really good in it.
Like
The Rock.
The Rock.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. Yeah, and Dave Bautista was also in the new Riddick movie. I mean, but the latest Riddick movie.
Well, what I liked about him in this is that he actually got to show his dramatic side. And
that's good.
He wasn't
because he never really got that before.
I mean, I would say Dave Bautista is a little bit different because Dave Bautista is an MMA fighter, whereas The Rock is a wrestler. Because
Dave Bautista was a wrestler though.
Oh, he was. Okay,
he was in WWE. Yeah.
Oh, because I was just gonna say, was he also in MMA though, or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't know.
I think he was always at WWE.
Okay, because it's like I'm actually kind of glad that a lot of wrestlers, not a lot, there are wrestlers who are getting into acting because, let's face it, wrestling is acting.
I mean, you still have to do the moves. Like, there's a legitimacy to it. But but everybody's larger than life, and they're doing their characters.
But I know that, I'm glad that a lot of wrestlers who kind of got in it for more than just the wrestling, they wanted to show their acting chops in a way, or given a chance to show that they can do it.
No, that is cool.
Yeah. So, this movie has a lot of really great aesthetic moments in it. Some that could not have been done in the past either. A lot of the way that they used the technology of modern day to make this film, made it as beautiful as it is. You could have people that complain about computer generated things and things like that, and in a lot of ways they're right. Sometimes you've made a movie into a cartoon with computer generation, right? And it does, and it also dates the movie, right? A lot of times.
True.
But
yeah, the movie only looks as good as the graphics could at the time it was made.
I mean, look at a lot of
like the Matrix 2,
or look at a lot of even the Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
like they
used the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Like all 3 movies were like 4 or 5 people on a stage in front of a blue screen, like most of the time.
Yeah, but I mean, like, not only that, like the taking out of it takes you out of it in the sense of the original, in the timeline, the first 3 look better than the second 3, but just
because they were all models, they were all practical effects.
But yeah, looking at the episodes 4, 5, and 6, a lot of the practical effects, or even like the CG that they used back then, kind of dates it in a way.
Yeah,
that ignoring the enhancements that might have been done to it, and if you have to imagine more with the old movies to keep in mind like how it's supposed to look. Same with, let's say, Tron. That's a big one that, like, thinking about what the inside of a computer looks like, and then looking at the original Tron movie, you're like, wow, that is definitely an 80s movie. And then looking at the next Tron movie, Legacy, and it's like completely different. But I really liked how Tron Legacy did that. Kind of like how they upgraded the computer. Like, they kind of mentioned that they upgraded the system, so it kind of makes sense. So just how you're saying in Blade Runner they gave the out of how the first movie ended, like that unsure ending. I like how when movies kind of give a slight nod to the fact that, hey, I know that the other movie is older or has this thing, but here's how we're connecting that, so you're not complaining and or wondering why it looks different or whatever.
Yeah.
So, there is a very unique love story in this movie, and I between Kay and another character, and I really love how it was done. I'm not gonna spoil anything because it's one of the beautiful moments in the movie. But I really love what's going on with it. And part of and modern filmmaking techniques made it possible.
Okay.
So I thought this movie was great. It explores more about the human condition, which is great. The first movie is ostensibly about empathy and how humanity should aspire to empathy. And the next movie, this one explores the kind of what makes a human in terms of memories. So it takes the implanted memory theme of the original and explores it more. So what makes a person who they are and what makes their life worth living is built on their previous experiences, and the nature of those previous experiences is really important and how they perceive them. So I really like what they did here. One thing I have to say, and this isn't really a criticism, is that the second movie doesn't really have much ambiguity. It retains the ambiguity that the first one that made it so good, and allows the first one to keep what made it special. It's not the kind of, once again reiterating that it's not the kind of sequel that answers the questions that you've already always wanted answers to. It does not do that. However, it tells a very straightforward story, but in a beautiful and elegant way.
Part of me wonders if that's just like how you said this movie is definitely meant for like the modern viewer. Not that modern movies don't have ambiguity, but I feel like more modern, like that's the modern viewer probably wants more of a defined story / ending, because that's just kind of what a lot of people look for nowadays. Definitely there are, I'm not saying that all movies have it. I mean, Inception is old now, let's say, but that had an ambiguous ending.
Sure.
If you really think about it, I know some people notice things, but then they didn't really notice it as well as they might have thought they did. But most movies nowadays have like a clear story and a clear ending, and don't really leave room like open for things like that. It could have also just been that this was the director slash writer slash whatever's thought. Like the first movie was about like, let's say, emotion or whatever, and the ambiguous part kind of was the culmination of whatever they were trying to make the viewer feel. Whereas in this movie, they didn't feel like an ambiguous ending would have added to what they wanted the viewer to feel.
I agree. So, like I said, it wasn't a criticism. It's just that you don't have to guess. It's something that I enjoyed doing about the first one, but the second one is a different movie. It's its own movie.
Yeah.
And I'm very much okay with it. In fact, I'm going to probably watch this movie many times when I get it on Blu-ray or whatever. But it is a really good watch. It's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, so after I saw the reviews that were all really good, and I had several friends on Facebook like giving it glowing reviews, I'm like, you know what? I want to see it. So AMC does $5 tickets on Tuesdays because no one sees movies on Tuesdays. And I was telling a group of my friends, I was saying, hey, do you want to watch Blade Runner? And one of my other friends said, well, he really wants to watch The Foreigner, which we can talk about later. Basically, it's Taken with Jackie Chan.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that.
But I was looking at the two movies, and I was looking at their playtimes, and I saw Blade Runner, and I'm like, holy shit. It's over 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it's worth it though. I never felt like, oh, come on, get on with it. Like I was enthralled the whole time. It had some really good feel-good moments in it. It also had some very good heartbreaking moments in it too. It's very much, and it also does leave plenty open if they want to do a sequel.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say how.
See you in 30 years.
No, but like what they do is they build on the world and they can do stuff with the stuff they introduced.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, but there are some callbacks to the first one. In fact, there's some major parts I would say are a lot more understood if you know the first movie. So I definitely would say rewatching the first one is not a requirement, but helps.
Yeah,
sure.
But excellent movie, probably going to be my favorite movie this year. I can't imagine too many beating it.
Nice. I'm glad to hear it's so good because I was, again, somewhat confused in the first movie, but when I saw this one coming out, I loved the idea of the first movie. Whether or not I thought it was confusing or really understood what was going on, I really liked the idea of it. Not that I'm a huge noir fan, not that I'm a huge cyberpunk fan. Well, I guess I'm a huge cyberpunk fan, and even though this isn't really cyberpunk, it's similar to it. You could say it's cyber adjacent. It's cyber noir. So
it is actually a step toward cyberpunk. So without Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the original novel, there would not be
True.
Cyberpunk.
True.
It's a lot of people say it's a stepping stone before you get to Neuromancer.
Okay.
Neuromancer's like the next step.
Yeah.
Neuromancer's where it becomes full-blown cyberpunk. And Snow Crash.
So I like cyberpunk. So I knew that there were some connections to it, so that's what I really enjoyed. So I was really looking forward to the new movie because it would continue that process. And I'm hoping that, I don't know if this introduced new thoughts into the cyber punk, cyber noir, cyber whatever world, but I was really interested in how they would continue that, and if they would, I guess, answer questions maybe that the first one asked, or just continue that thought process of the first movie. So I'm really glad that it's doing well.
So at the heart of most cyberpunk is also the question of humanity and existence. A lot of cyberpunk has to do with AI and also
AIAIO.
Yeah. Yeah. With a quack here. But no, in all seriousness, also like if a program could even match up to being a human, or whether a digital copy of a human is still a human. There are a lot of existential questions that cyberpunk tries to ask, and in turn, like, it makes you think about what makes us us. Like, what we have biological programming, right? So like, why am I the way I am? So Blade Runner, the original and the new one, are very much about that. It's very much an existential look at what makes us tick. What is a replicant if but just a human? I mean, I'm not ruining anything, because like I'm sure you gather that
even the first movie kind of went there.
Yeah, the main character is a replicant, so you got to imagine that his struggle is the Pinocchio dilemma of whether he's real or not. Right?
Yeah,
it's actually, and it's not like maybe Blade Runner was the first one, or to like think this way, maybe, or the book, let's say, but I think that a lot of stories have this thought when there's like an artificial being who's the main character. Like you can think of Ghost in the Shell does a similar thing.
Sure.
It's just, and it's always an interesting story because it's always about, in a way, the artificial creature being subservient to humans, but the humans giving them the ability to think. And at that time, it's like, how can we say we're better than them if they can do the same things that we can?
If you create something with human intelligence, you have to create it with a human respect.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down
iRobot
to.
is another one that really comes to mind.
Sure. I don't know whether you guys know this or not, but the word robot actually is like
slave.
Yeah,
it means
Slavic for slave.
It comes. It's like comes
slave.
from like
Czechoslovakia.
No, but I mean, like, I think robot comes from the word like roboto or robota or something like that, which means slave, which is very interesting that we use that word too. So,
well, robots first appeared in literature, and then they made them. So,
yep.
That's and just us not getting the message.
Yep. Which humans do very, very often.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, having said that, please go out and see this movie. It's very enjoyable. I would say that if you love any sort of movie that has an artistic feel to it, go for it, because it's not a boring movie in the slightest either. There's plenty going on. There's a few action scenes that are good.
Oh,
but
nice.
They're dispersed in there. It's not all action all the time. It's not like that. But it's a cool detective story in its own right. So if you like detective stories, if you like the futuristic aesthetic, and you also like the existentialism, go for it. It's definitely worth it.
Cool.
Well, having said that, I think we can wrap up. I think that was good enough here. That's the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast about our lives and pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing some of my videos early, or getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then maybe consider swinging by my Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloud08540 on Steam, PSN, or Battle.net. One thing I do want to say to a lot of people is, I don't know if it was from this podcast, but I got a few requests for friends. If it's from people who are listening, please put a message in there, because I deny all requests that I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, I concur, because I've seen they've gotten a lot of spam, too, as of late. So, like, you know, just reach out to us. Give yourself a little introduction. Hey, I like the show. Hey, you guys can go to hell, but I want to play with you. You know, just say something that we know you're not like a robot.
Yeah, and if you have friend requested and I denied your friendship, don't take it as an offense just because I had no clue who you were. If you sent the message saying, "Hey, I listen to your podcast," even if that's all you said, I'd be more willing to accept it just because I know of why you're friend requesting me.
Yeah. I
just don't send any messages like, "Hey, for free streaming movies, click this link."
Free access codes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on Tuesday on the next Corrective.
Until next time, everyone.
See ya, everyone.